Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. In our first story, we tell how the unwillingness of management to listen to their employees created a lot of problems for the restaurant. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Work a double and get written up, or... In high school, a few friends and myself worked at a local chain restaurant. We were fully able to run the day shift, but had never really broken down the equipment and closed up for the evening. One particular night, a few of the night shift had called in sick. We were asked to pull a double and close the restaurant, which we did. Essentially worked from 10 a.m. until midnight, myself and 3 friends and a manager. We were really tired, but felt that we had done the right thing and helped out the company. The next day, the 4 of us came in to work another day shift. The day manager pulls us into her office one by one and informs us that she would need to write us up because we hadn't properly cleaned and filtered the fry grease. Regardless of our leaning in for a double, having never closed or been trained on closing procedures, and having been given permission by the night manager to leave, meaning all closing work had been completed, after a quick chat with my friends, it was aligned that I was going to push back on the write-up, and if the day manager insisted on writing us up, we would quit. I informed the manager that we were collectively not going to sign the write-up slips. Her alternative threat was that we would be fired, to which I informed her that if she insisted on writing us up for helping out, pulling a double, not being trained, and having been released by the night manager, then we would quit. Collectively, immediately. She responded with, "If you don't sign the write-up, then you'll be fired." A staring contest follows. I eventually broke in with an, "Okay, I guess we're fired then." We turned in our hats, quit symbolically, and left. It was really amazing. My friend quit mid-burger prep. My other friend simply walked off the cash register in the middle of taking an order. We clocked out and walked out the back, leaving only the day manager in the restaurant, customers in line, customers at the drive-thru. Later that same day, we decided to return to our place of employment to have dinner. The night shift must have been sick, as the entire restaurant was staffed with managers from nearby restaurants, same chain, including our day manager, who was now pulling her own double, and the night manager that had released us the prior evening. There was nothing better than eating our burgers and watching the management staff fail at every station, and knowing that their pride, lack of rational flexibility, and threats had resulted in one of the most righteous meals we ever ate together. Needless to say, we were all employed at the next chain restaurant down the street in a matter of days. It's been nearly 30 years, and I remember that standoff, her ultimatum, and our walkout like it was last week. And our second story. Mandatory late-night call after you made me hourly? Yes, sir. So, quick background. I work for a big national company, which I will not name because I like being employed, and we have a big software system that the entire company relies on to wrap stuff up and get it ready for the client. It's that last choke point bottleneck where if it dies, literally all the work the rest of the company does is for naught. I run this system at the grunt work day-to-day operational level. This system also typically has upgrades and fixes installed about every 2 weeks, and they always wait until late at night to bring it down and do the install so that it doesn't impact daily business. Now, when these installs occurred, they always get a bunch of people on a call to go through everything and make sure it all works before calling it good for Monday. Being the guy who runs the system all the time, I was always required to be on these calls. I hated them. The calls started at 10 p.m. Friday night, so I couldn't go out and enjoy my weekend. It would last about 2 hours while the developers installed stuff, and at the very end, I pushed one button to kick things off so the suits could see that it was working and everybody was happy. This was literally monkey work, and everyone on those calls could have done it. I volunteered to teach them how, but no, they wanted me on the call. I was salary at the time, so not exactly like I could say no, and I wasn't getting paid anything extra for it. Can you see where this is going? Okay, so a few years ago, guidelines changed at the government level, saying that anyone who made XX dollars per year or less couldn't be defined as salary. They had to be hourly to stop companies from abusing glorified part-timers. I made more than that, but the company went overboard because I was somewhere in the general ballpark and they didn't want to risk it. So bam, I'm now hourly. Roughly 2 weeks later, it's deployment time. I ask if I'm really required to be there or not. Boss man says yes. I don't complain because at least now I'll get paid for it. Oh, but wait, this isn't any normal deployment. No, this is a big one. They tell me I need to be on the calls that'll start up at 5, just as I'd normally be clocking out for the day. Thinking it would be a quick check-in and then back out till 10, I dutifully call in. Nope, this call lasts from 5 until 10, when we get to take all of a 5-minute break to get into the other call. Now I'm home short, so I'm sitting on this call in my underwear, and nothing is going on requiring any input from me. Again, I'm not complaining because I'm getting paid for this, and I've got Netflix on in the background. Not only am I getting paid since I did my full 40 hours that week already, this was overtime. So 10 o'clock deployment stuff starts going on, and by midnight, we get to my part. I push the button. I tell them it's going to take another 20 to 30 minutes to process before we know if it worked. Half hour of twiddling thumbs later, it fails. Some cursing from Dev as they go to try and fix whatever borked, and I got to spend another 30 minutes resetting all the data so we can try again. Once everything is ready, I push the button. 30 minutes later, it fails again. Fast forward several hours. It's now 5 o'clock Saturday morning. It still hasn't run properly. Everybody is cranky except me because, baby, I got dollar signs in my eyes. 12 hours of OT for watching Netflix and doing monkey work is going to be sweet. Except it was even better than I thought at the time. That Saturday was technically some minor holiday. My company pays time and a half if you work on a holiday, so I had 7 hours of overtime and 5 hours of OT with additional time and a half. I ended up making over half a week's pay overnight from that call. My boss flipped when he saw the check I was supposed to get. I reminded him that I had asked in an email with half the team copied if he really needed me on that call. He had said I absolutely had to be. Unlike some of the bosses I read about on here, he swallowed his defeat gracefully. I got a huge paycheck that period, and oddly enough, I've not been required to attend a single one of those calls since then. Wonder why. Side note, Dev worked on it all weekend and got it running by Monday morning, so we were fine. And our last story. My uncle stole from family business. First, a little backstory. Over 30 years ago, my father used to work at a bank where he would make ends meet. At some point, he accumulated some money and decided it was time for him to start his own business, and so he did. 5 years later, becoming a quite successful company in our town, he was making around 5 times more money than he was at the bank, so life was good. My uncle, who's 7 years younger than my father, obviously saw his success. New car, new house. He met my mom, who was a fine lady back then, and asked my father for a job. At the time, my uncle was 23, didn't go to college, and proclaimed himself as a musician. In reality, he would just drink beer and play guitar at random bars. My father knew all this, but still gave him a job. He started pretty low in the company, but over 25 years working there, he earned my father's trust and gave up on music. At the time I joined the company, which was around 6 years ago, my uncle was in the highest available position besides my father. For me, that made sense. Even though he's uneducated, he's a pretty smart guy. The last position he had was mainly handling payments to third-party workers who we'd hire for our clients. He would watch over other workers to see if they were working, but that was it. It's not a high-demanding job. I know this because whenever he would go on vacation, I'd cover it for him, only taking about an hour of my day with his duties. After he was laid off, I still do it to this day, and it's no big deal. Now, let me explain how he became a choosing beggar. At the start of 2018, things weren't so great at our company. Most months we would just barely pay every worker, and we had to lower our own salaries in order to end the month in the blue. My father, as the founder, was worried sick he would lose the thing he fought so hard to build. What was weird is that my uncle was calm, as if nothing was happening. And he would call us for expensive lunches, bought new clothes, and got a lot of new tattoos. Mind you, those things are not cheap in my country. Fast forward 6 months, when my father was checking the company's bank account, he noticed one of our investment accounts was missing, around $50K. The only ones who could access that specific account were me, my father, and my uncle. My father came to me first, knowing my uncle's life history. I denied ever moving any kind of money in the bank since my job doesn't require me to. We asked our bank manager where the money went, and lo and behold, it was my uncle who took it. When questioned about it, he denied it was him, saying it was a mistake from the bank. We showed him the email from the bank and the security camera recording of the room. The date and the time matches his movements. You can even see him logging into the bank. He stormed off out of the room, saying everything was a setup to get him fired. How would we set up him into stealing? For a week, he didn't show up at work and didn't pick up his phone. When he finally came back, he tried reasoning with my father, saying he stole the money because the pay was too small, that my father was greedy because he earned more than him, that I would inherit everything one day and he wouldn't get a cut. He actually had a cut, and the list went on. My uncle didn't return a single penny to the bank in the time he was out. My father was furious. After a lot of angry talking, they made a deal in which my uncle would keep the money and would transfer all rights over the company to me for free. He also wouldn't get compensation for being laid off with no reason, since we did not press charges. My uncle vanished for some months, probably surviving off the stolen money. As time went by, we discovered other places he was getting more money from, scheming with clients, taking bribes, avoiding taxes. Our company was a mess, and he was the cause for most of our distress. Luckily, as we corrected those bad manners, the company started to grow again. Last Christmas, my father forgave him for his sin and asked him to dine with us. Every time my father went into another room, he would rant to me and other family members how unjust my father was laying him off after a 25-year-old job, how my father threw him on the streets, that he was having anxiety problems, and even was bold enough to say that now he has to actually work to get half of the pay he received with us. How dare you, Uncle? And overall, being just a sore son of a gun. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.